So we are live now,
Okay.
and this is Heller Barnes. Ask us anything, and we have Tim with us today. And Tim's,
I'm back.
you're back, you're back, and so
And Johnny Heller is not
yeah,
for the
well,
second time that I've been here, and I know there's a correlation.
there is because he knew when I said, "All right, I have Tim showing up." Then he said, "Oh well, I'm out. I'm gonna go to Quebec or something crazy." I mean, he wouldn't even stay in New York when he heard it was you. He went all the way to Quebec. He had to get as far away as he could. New York wasn't far enough away from LA. Because I'm going to Canada. Call me when he's back. All right. So Mr. Heller is on Heller takes no vacations. I don't think he's taking a vacation over the last 30 years or something crazy like that. And so he is in Canada right now having a great time, and he sends his best wishes, and he'll be back next week as usual. And so Tim, you get to test first off. Be sure to pronounce your last name for everybody.
Okay. Lunabus.
Lunibus. So I knew that, but I think that when people look at it, it's like when they look at my last name because it being spelled weird. Then they go, what is that? You know?
My son and I were actually talking about that
Yeah.
with your name, but go on.
It happens. Oh, there is an echo. Okay, so we're gonna
Oh, there
see.
is. Do you want me to put headphones on or?
Well, if we can, it would help. That is it.
Okay. Hey, it looks so ugly.
Yeah, but you're beautiful either way. You're. Now we'll have to turn off that speaker though. You'll have to now turn down the speakers. Can you? Is that
Yes.
easy to do?
Hold on.
Yep. Thank you for letting us know that. We had debated about it. There is a, so yeah, you'll turn off the Mac Pro speakers. Not Tim. Oh, me.
How's
Yeah,
that?
that's because I'm going through and I'm coming out Tim's speakers and then his mic is picking it up.
Is that working?
Yeah, so let's see. It takes, by the way, the comments end up being delayed. So we don't see the comments for 30 seconds after you post them. So just so you know, you post them. We don't see them for a few seconds. So understand there'll be a delay.
Nancy said not Tim.
Yes, but she said not Tim. And what's
Oh,
happening?
but because it's you coming through.
Yes.
Got it.
So we are both special. You're specialer.
Okay.
Let's get that. And
Lanisha said that's better. Hello, Lanisha. Oh,
yeah,
Jesus, that wasn't
really
good.
Not better. Okay, I'm gonna figure that one out. So that'll make everybody really happy with me. So now I'll change that. All right, now go ahead and say something to me, Tim.
Hello, how are you doing?
All right. There, that should be better for everybody.
All right.
Phew, that's better. Okay, I appreciate that.
Take two.
It's always fun doing live stuff because there's a bunch of moving parts, and Tim and I are actually Tim's an odd guest because you're here in LA. Most of the time, I'm talking to someone across the country. Johnny's across the country, and do you live in the San Fernando Valley as well? Where are you at?
No, I live north of that. I live towards Magic Mountain.
Oh yeah,
just
okay.
north of Magic Mountain. So I'm off the 5 right before the Grapevine. So the north part of
Okay.
the county, Los Angeles County.
Cool. All right. Well, we're not very far apart because I'm just right as you cross Magic Mountain. I'm probably 10 minutes south of Magic Mountain.
Jeez, I gotta ask my wife. Hold on, I gotta ask my wife to close her door. She's on. I can hear her. She's on in a meeting.
Oh, okay.
So we'll do a take 3. Hold on just a second.
Yeah. I'll just vamp here. So, Tim's just crazy in terms of good stuff. When you go, you do need to go, and I need to put in a reference to his IMDB because he has. Last time I checked, 73 on-camera credits, and so you start looking at how long he's been an actor, and so he's been doing audiobooks only the last couple of years. So I'm going to ask him a question about, okay, so you've been
I took
acting.
the time to get this since I went out there.
Oh,
Can
gosh,
you see
look
that?
at that.
I found this in some. It was in the bathroom of some store, and it wasn't for sale. It was just a decoration, but I'm gonna send it to him.
I think he'll be pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So how long have you been how long were you an actor before we did anything with audiobooks?
30 years.
Okay.
Just about.
So you're a beginner.
Yeah.
And then so what happens? So you start audiobooks in a couple of years. I assume that there's a little bit of a transition between acting and audiobooks, and then there's a crazy amount of overlap. So what have you learned about audiobooks?
Yeah, because I didn't leave on-camera acting. I just added another form of acting.
Cool. So, wait a minute. Our audio, I thought it was just reading. Books are reading? Is that not?
Yeah, no.
No. Okay. So your
But
acting kind of helps
acting
you? Is that what I'm hearing?
acting helps me quite a bit, but I came into it thinking that, yeah, I'm an actor. It should be no issue whatsoever. And then I was learned, no, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to learn. And it's not only technique, but it's also just being in a booth for hours and what that does to your body, and then the things that you can do to minimize that. And yeah, and then and understanding, acting helps also in terms of pacing and everything, but there are things like there's certain things you would do on camera that you cannot do in books.
Can you tell?
You know,
Can you give us some examples? What would?
well, when you're taking in something and thinking about something, the camera's on your face, so that fills the space. Is the camera seeing what's going on here? Listening, no one's gonna hear that. So they're just sitting here. It's long dramatic pause, and it's like, no, that doesn't work. And so you can't do those things. And in the beginning, when I'm reading, I'm acting, and I was doing in the beginning similar things. I'm realizing, oh wow, I gotta punch and roll. I gotta edit that out or what have you. And then the whole thing about mouth noises and staying hydrated and all that stuff. But I would say 95% of my friends would not be able to do this, who are actors, would not be able to do this.
And what are
It's
the biggest things that
too
would
demanding, it's
block
too
them?
taxing.
Say that again, please.
Too demanding, too taxing, too physically taxing, I have some actor friends that it would just be too difficult to stay in the moment for that long of a period of time. For even if you're taking breaks every hour, hour and a half, like I do, it would be too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is obvious, but you're playing to nobody. I mean,
Yeah,
you're playing to a microphone in a sense, and um, I'll bet you have
a
a
good
horrible.
actor that shouldn't affect though.
Okay, but I'll bet you have a horrible director when you're in the booth.
Yeah,
No.
probably one of the worst.
No. Okay, but it is different though. Where normally on camera, I live here in LA, so I know a lot of actors, and I've been on a lot of stuff. Anyway, um, there's always a director. I don't remember any production where there wasn't somebody there who was kind of managing the whole. There's more. There's the director, assistant director. Then there's somebody who's in charge of script and making sure that you're staying
Yeah,
relatively within the script, and there's this whole
and
team of people managing what you're doing, and you're kind of
yeah, even now when I find out there's going to be a director on something I'm doing, I'm ecstatic because I love collaborating with someone else.
okay.
And yeah, I can do it myself, but it's not the same,
It's not the same. Yeah.
and I know they're saving money and all of that, but it is not the same. You're not going to get the same quality of work as if there is a good director working with you.
Okay. But 90%, I would say, at least the people recording at home, probably 95% are self-directed, and that's a whole
Yeah.
different animal.
Yeah, maybe even more. Yeah,
Okay.
than that.
And so what else have you learned over the last couple years compared to being an actor? What would you do anything differently now if you were restarting today?
Uh, that's a good question. I think I was I think I was smart about how I went about it because I say it's been 2 years now
Hmm.
since I started working, but I spent 10 months before that learning about the craft
Okay.
and creating my toolkits and all that stuff. And so I was able to hit the ground running once I started September 2022 and did my initial reach outs to producers and started getting work immediately.
But you did
Um,
have okay, but let's make sure people are clear. You took almost a year of prep in advance. What did you do in that year? How do you?
I took a course called the Great Audiobook Adventure, Elise Arsenault's
Mhm.
course, and I mean that alone set me up, prepared me for being able to hit the ground running.
Cool.
you know, because it got all the nuts and bolts of the craft in place for me. You know, I knew what I needed to do. I also was doing Dion master classes. I had started before uh, before reaching out to producers. You know, so it's always like, you know, you have the first 5 questions before each class, and one of them is your experience. And I go 0 books, you know, so go on. But and then I went to, you know, it's coming up. It's going to be the first one I'm missing since I started, but the New England Narrator Retreat. My first one was in 2022, right after I had just done my first book.
Okay.
And,
So
you know, and
for
so,
in case we have somebody who's been under a rock, I doubt it if they're watching this show. That's Johnny Heller's thing. I think that was my second year that I was there as a coach, and it's coming up here in another 3 weeks, and yeah. So but what you're saying though,
and I went to APAC and the Audis, you
okay,
know, and I made a point of, getting in groups and stuff like that, and going to meetups, and really making a point of, not only was I taking care of my toolkit, but I was also taking care of introducing myself to the community and
yeah,
learning who was who and
yeah. I mean,
getting to
I
know
think I met
everyone.
you. There was some local event here in LA that was for narrators. Somebody, it was in their backyard, if I remember right. I may have we met at the New England thing first, which was kind of funny
Right.
because we're both here in LA, and yet we met halfway.
Maria had a party, a New Year's Eve party. I mean,
That
not a New Year's Eve, a 4th of July party.
Yep. Saw you
And
there, and so the bottom line is, we were 2,000-3,000 miles away when we first met from where we live, and then somebody had a 4th of July party here in LA, and I mean, both of us, if somebody invites us to a party, an event that's going to be narrator focused or voiceover focused, I go. Unless I can't go, I go.
yeah.
And and since I see you at all these things too, we're
You know,
like,
and here's a big thing is when I started, I didn't, you know, this even though I had no books under my belt when I first was doing things, uh, there was never a situation where I felt like, oh, I'm not ready yet to be meeting people or going out. No, I had a whole vision of where I was going to be, and in order to achieve goals that I wanted to achieve, then this was all part of needing to prepare, of getting ready for that. It wouldn't happen without doing this. And when I meet people, it's always about, I'm totally open, vulnerable, respectful. It's always about just one on one with whomever I meet. And it's never like, I'm not going to talk to that person. Maybe I shouldn't talk to that person. No,
yeah.
it's
Except for
like,
me,
we're in the same room. Let's talk.
you avoided me for a long time. So
Yeah, that you are the exception.
yeah,
But,
okay,
you know, other than that,
yeah. But here's so big takeaway for everyone. I'm going, and please correct me, but I think from your acting background, you knew acting. People are here in LA. The good actors are people. I mean, they
yeah,
understand. Maria McCann has a great quote. She's like, 3 casting directors who like you can make your whole career. Now, you
it's
may
now
have to
when you
go
say,
through.
I have to
Yeah.
jump in there, because I would not say it's the good actors that are people. It's maybe the working actors.
Okay.
A
Sorry.
majority of working actors are
Okay.
people.
That's a much better way to put it.
Yeah,
Okay, but that's fair.
because
Yeah.
there are
You're right.
very
You're
good
right.
actors that are extremely introverted, or, you know, and it needs to be, they need to be seen in one of their pieces of their work to bring them out, as opposed to
Right.
someone going, yeah, I like you, let's hire you.
Well, I think one of the things that people don't understand about performers, if you're in your element performing, that is not always the way you are in person.
Yeah,
So somebody on camera could be highly outgoing because that's the part they're playing. And then if they're at a party, they don't want to talk to anybody, and they're uncomfortable talking with people where it's unscripted, where it's just, hey, have a good time. You're excellent at having a good time with a bunch of people and learning about them and learning their background, and everybody should imitate you in that respect, because
everybody should not.
it's that it is. I know it's kind of funny, but it works out that people want to work with people that they like, People want to work and interact with people that they found to be a decent person.
But
And
for the long term, people want to work with people that they can rely on.
yeah, absolutely. So you never turn in anything early. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm always asking for extensions every single book.
Yeah. So, what's your goal as far as, so if I have a book and I cast you and it was due, we're here in September, October 15th. Do you kind of mentally plan it out to be done on the 14th, 16th?
Uh, no, I used to when I was first starting, it was like going to be everything was going to be turned in at least a week early.
Well,
It's not realistic anymore for me to say that. So really, I don't put that pressure on me. It's that it just needs to be in on time because I'm trying to work my schedule. Right now I have, I don't know how many books in the queue, like 18 or so, but I'm out until March. And so what I do when I'm looking at scheduling, I am saying, okay, how long do I think it'll take me if in a perfect world I was prepping and recording this book? All right, now what happens if I book a guest star role? That's going to take me out for a week. Or if I have 3 auditions in a week, because when I do auditions, everything else goes to the wayside. Um, or
and
my
you win all your
son,
auditions, right?
what's that?
You win all your auditions?
No.
Well,
But I act like I'm going to win it every time.
okay.
Um, my son, my daughter, their needs, my wife, her needs. I'm the main caretaker at home in terms of taking care of stuff and taking kids wherever they need to go. My daughter's on her own now, but she still needs me,
Yeah.
and so yeah, or like what just happened this last weekend, I have a cousin who is in hospice, has just entered hospice, and so cousins were getting together out there, and I was like, there's no way in hell I'm missing that.
Right.
And so
But that would affect the schedule
in that
potentially,
that would
right?
affect the schedule. And in this case, it wasn't something where I had built in enough time to allow for that. So I actually emailed out and said, look, here's the situation. It's a book that's a 22-hour book that I'm doing this month, and it was due at the end of the month. And I said, can I get an extension just in case?
Right.
And they worked it out where they said, yeah, what works for you? And I just said, give me an extra week, and I think we're golden.
Now, why didn't you just wait till the very end and tell them that you're going to be late?
Because that's just freaking BS.
Okay.
Everyone's producers, when it's like being a project manager for the audiobook. And so they have all their considerations, and they have the engine, the engineers, etc., post, everyone, marketing, what have you, or when's the printed book coming out, and everything. There's all these different considerations. So it's extremely, even though it might be from the standpoint like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to, I'm just going to really make this work. I'm going to do whatever I have to just get it in on time. What happens 2 days before, day before, when you realize, oh, shoot, now I got to let the producer know that I can't make it?
Right.
Well, that just screws everything because now they don't have any time to make an adjustment that doesn't cause issues in other areas.
Right.
So yeah, as soon as you know that, you know what, I might not be able to make that deadline, then you reach out and say, hey, is there any give in this deadline?
Right. Right. That's so smart to do it as early as possible. And not the dirty secret in this business is they work with hundreds of narrators over time, and they know life happens. And
Yeah.
as long as you are reliable 98% of the time, or what, I don't know what the percentage is, you're getting stuff in on time regularly. And if you have one because you have a family issue and you ask for extension early enough, they all have a life too, so they
And in this case, it's a
understand.
publisher the first time I'm working with them,
Ah,
you know,
yep.
so they don't know my track record.
Okay.
They might have a certain uh, expectation from me, or I might have a certain reputation by now. I don't know, but they haven't worked with me yet. This is the
Okay.
first time.
But you know what? I'll bet that they're happy that you were a responsible individual, and now you still might beat that week by a couple days, depending on how it works out. And of course, you gave them notice, so they're not
Yeah.
sitting there, waiting for it, and you have to go at the last minute. So that's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Um,
And so then also when I'm scheduling, I'm also keeping in mind, and this has happened like for this quarter, is a couple, 2 or 3 opportunities popped up where it was like, yeah, now I can make that work because I built in extra time for these other books.
Okay. Okay. So even though you're booked out, quote, in advance for X months, you still
Yeah,
try
I
to, you're
I
scheduling
don't
in
I
a
don't know
way.
if I have any give right now through the end of this year. Maybe like if it's a story from an anthology, something like that.
Okay.
But now I'm pretty solid. I can't
Okay.
take anything else the rest of this year. And then next year, not in January, maybe February if it's a small thing, but probably not.
Okay. Well, I think your acting background is starting to catch up to you. That's seriously. I
Well,
mean,
and that's the weird thing too, is that yeah, yeah, yeah. Dan Dan Henning, I remember being at APAC 2023
hmm
in New York, and he's been so supportive of me because we both come from LA theater, and I had done a reading for his theater company in the 90s and stuff. And so he came up to me and he goes, Tim, I just want to say how excited I am for you. And at that time, I think I was like I don't know, 8 or 9 books. It wasn't like I had a bunch of books, but he said it's just happening so fast. And he said, at some point, it's going to reach an exponential stage
right.
where, it's just coming from all over. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. But the difference though, for most people, most people jump in like they have their first book way before they're prepared. You spent close to a year taking courses, getting your stuff together, working on the tech stuff, making sure getting your booth set up. All the details were in place, and you spent 30 years working on your craft in terms of being an actor, so that part of it would be, relatively easy. And then you're taking courses, and by going to the Heller event early on meant that combined with the other course you had done, you're exposed to more stuff in the first 10 months while you're preparing than a lot of people. Unfortunately, they might do this a year or two before they do take a course. And
Yeah.
can they succeed? I've seen some people succeed without doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, being in the business a while, I've seen a lot of people start off with a bang, but they don't make enough money to justify the amount of time they spend because they didn't do what you did and they weren't prepared. And then a year later, 2 years later, they're gone. And it's unfortunate, but without doing the prep work, it's a tough business. And even if you get everything prepared, sometimes it doesn't start off that way, but you just have a huge body of work. Let's see. Jim just asked us a question. Um, how often
And
is
also,
it that someone who cast you has listened to more than a sample of your work? Uh,
well, I don't really know the answer to that question, except that I can say, Jim, that I made a point. So I was never into having a website about me. That was like, it just was against everything about me. Even though I know people see me as someone who's good with social stuff and even social media stuff and everything, I it was hard for me to ever go, oh yeah, I'm going to make a website about me. I never did. And then you get involved in this and it's like you have to have a website. And so I was like, well, if I'm doing a website, then I guess I better do it for everything. And so I think it helped me, especially in the beginning, when producers would go to, I would send them the sample page link, but then I have a feeling some of them would go around because I remember early on also I had booked one of the early books I got was from Audible, and it was and Audible likes to connect you with the author. And so when I talked to the author, she goes, "Oh yeah," she goes, "You're gonna be, they love you because you're an actor and all this stuff." So that
yeah.
made it clear to me that they checked out
Yeah.
other stuff on my page.
Yeah.
But in terms, I don't think anyone's listening to my audiobooks or anything. I think, they're just I don't think they have the time.
Yeah. And you know what? Once they find out your background, you're going to and then you do the audition. Now, I assume you still have to audition for the books, correct?
Uh,
Sometimes?
sometimes not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get a lot of direct offers, and probably I would say 3/4 are direct offers, and a fourth are I need to audition.
Okay.
And it's because I'm this, I don't know how to say this. I haven't been doing reach outs. I'm huge on reach outs. This is how I got work, is through reach outs. I haven't done a reach out in probably 4 months. But I will do a reach out probably full time to say, hey, I've been gone, I know, but blah, blah, blah. Because I usually would do 6 to 8 week reach outs, but I can't take on any more work right now.
Right.
And then, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Well, okay. How about you've done some Star Trek type things, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but not everyone. First off, you know, I don't even know. I know you, and I don't know. I know you've been involved with it. So pretend we know nothing about Star Trek. I mean, we
Okay.
know about Star Trek, but nothing about you in Star Trek.
My very first thing connected with Star Trek is not what people would think.
Okay.
When I was first doing acting in like the early 90s, I booked a commercial. It was a KFC commercial. It was a worldwide buyout, so it didn't play in the States, but you can see it on YouTube and everything. And what it was like the 20th or 25th, probably the 20th anniversary. I guess. Oh, I don't even know. But it was an anniversary of the original Star Trek.
Okay.
And so they were looking for actors to cast, and then they had an Oscar-winning prosthetics guy create, make them look like the person, but they had to have a good canvas, I guess.
Okay.
And I became Sulu, even though I tower over George, and and it was because of my lips. They said I had feminine lips, awesome. And so, but yeah, so that started with that, and they had the original set designer create the deck for the first time since the series had run.
Wow.
And it was an Oscar-winning DP, so that was a great experience. But anyway, so it was that, and it's a very funny commercial. You can still watch it and laugh. And then after that, my very first guest star in '93, early '93, was for The Next Generation, and I played Lieutenant Dan Kwan, half Napian. I worked on the Enterprise. No, not the Enterprise. Whatever it
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
for Next Generation.
Okay.
And then I did a video game. So I was Venus Under.
But see, here's the thing.
Oh, and I do have action cards, Star Trek action cards, which is cool. And then I'm also part of a Scene It game. I'm a trivia answer, because it's the Star Trek Scene It one. And yeah, and I think the answer has to do something about Jag, and it was me. But anyway.
But all that stuff though gives you both perspective and acting experience.
Oh, then it was the 25th, Bob. Thank you. And I'm not going to be in New England this year.
Yeah. So first off, so you have anything coming out in the near future as far as releases or books or
today,
on
actually,
camera?
I had a couple releases today. And the first time that Eunice Wong and I are narrating together. So
cool.
So that was fun.
I gotta go find it. Is it a book on Audible?
Yeah, it's called Vertical Motion.
Hold on, no, go ahead. Tell us
okay,
about it.
And so it's an anthology of stories from the same author, and I took the ones from the male POV, and she took the ones from the female POV. And each story is a standalone story on its own. And
cool.
So that was fun because I got to play with sort of different.
There it is. I have the link, and I'm going to throw that in.
And it's really the woman's writing, Chinese woman, and really odd, quirky, sometimes creepy, but it's a cool book. And then I have another book that got released for my pseudo. So.
Okay, tell us about. Wait. I did see on your. I was looking through your stuff here, and you have another name. Why do you have another name?
Through my stuff, where are you seeing another name?
Because someplace in one of your, either on your site or on your IMDB, it said alternate name. And
said, Lawndale? No, it was Mike. It was for. And it was Saved by the Bell. The next class or new class, they put the wrong name on one of the episodes. I did 3 episodes, and one of them was like Tim Laughlin or something like that.
Yeah. I saw the Tim.
No,
I thought, what does he
no,
have,
that was just a total total mistake.
Okay. So that's how I saw that you had an alternate name.
Okay, no, that's not my pseudo.
Okay.
And I'm not telling you my
That's
pseudo.
what I thought it was, possibly. So okay, well, I'm glad we got that straight. That it wasn't.
Yeah, no, that was totally on their end. I have no idea who Tim Laughlin is,
Okay, but it's you.
but it's me.
But it's you.
That was I was playing that character.
So would you ever? Have you thought about doing pseudonyms for anything? Is there any
Why I
reason?
did this year. I held off for a year and a half, almost, and then finally I was like, okay, I'll do one or two and see how it is, and it started with someone offering me a book, and then it went from there, and so I think I've done five books are on Audible, and about another 8 are in the queue
That's
to
impressive.
do.
That's cool.
Wait, what's it?
Yeah.
It's Schmendrick the Magnificent. How did
Yeah.
you know that?
So when you talk about doing these reach outs, has anything changed over time? Like you were doing, first off, I'm believing that when you mentioned that, you've been doing reach outs for like that's part of your acting thing,
Yeah.
and you're
So
on
that's
camera.
that starting mid-September of 2022 is when I started my reach outs. And in the beginning, I was reaching out to about 20 people.
Okay, but now, did you do this before this did you do reach outs
No,
as a,
so here's the total difference. This is the total difference between on camera and audiobook narration. And in the very first thing that I watched about audiobook narration is where I said, wow, you actually reach out directly with producers. You don't do that on camera. And I realized this is also why everything is connected in terms of, I was 30 years in an industry where it's like producers are like this to you if they don't know you, if they happen to meet you and stuff, and then the ice is broken and all that stuff. But
Okay.
the original thing is no, I don't. You're an actor. No, please go through your agent. And then hand in hand with that is then it's so competitive between the actors to get jobs.
Well, you and
And
I
then you
competed
realize there's this amount of jobs, and there's so many actors, hundreds of thousands of actors. Not all of them are working or down here, but there's many actors.
Right.
And then you come into this, and at first it's like, is this for real? How people are interacting and how people are supporting each other and generous and friendly. It's like, it's crazy. It's like the total opposite. And immediately I realized it's because there's so much content that they need to fill, and there's only a certain amount of narrators. And I know that that's increased a bit since the pandemic, which are people like me came into this. But so like everyone's willing to help each other out because we don't feel the competition from each other. We know that we can reach out to people and get work directly. Yeah, but that's why the reach outs were a new thing for me. But I learned quickly, and I didn't know that first set of reach outs. It was like, am I going to be relevant? Is this going to work?
So
And I got 2 offers from the first thing of reach outs.
So
and a
tell us
couple of
about what would be a typical
auditions.
reach out. How, if somebody doesn't know what that even means, what does that mean? Are you sending an email? What's in the email?
Yeah, you're sending an email and you're saying hello. My first reach out is an introductory one, and it gives them all the information, and the links that they can click on, and just says it's like a Cliff Note summary of who I am and the things that I do that could benefit you, and that would allow us to work together. And then after that, it's just like, hey, what's up? And maybe I just did this, or I went on this, or blah blah blah, and but just want to touch base on and just to remind you about genres, or here's my upcoming schedule. I have availability during these times.
And
And
were you really hyper selective in the beginning? Like, so if you were sending me an email, did you already know a little bit about the producer you were sending something
Yeah,
to? So
yeah.
that
I wouldn't just send it cold. I would do my research and find out who do I want to reach out to, who does certain types of genres, or it's through someone I know who says, hey, this person would be great for you to reach out to,
okay,
and some people say you can use my name and stuff like that. Um, so yes, and then now this isn't recommended, but each time I would go to an event or each time like I did quick pitch, stuff like that, then those people would become part of my email reach out. And there was a time where all I did was every couple months, I would send mass reach out, which then reached to about 70 people by, end of last year reaching out to. And, uh, and now I've changed that. Now I will send when I'm doing reach outs, each week I will send a much smaller amount, like 1/7 of my list.
okay.
And then I'll do it again. And then by the eighth week comes around, then I go back to the beginning of the list.
Now, did they all get the same message, or do you customize it for?
Yeah. Well, I customize it for some, but in general, they're getting the same message because it takes too much time.
Right.
For me, it's about efficiency. And if it's working, I'm not going to change it.
Did you do that in the
But
beginning?
for certain people that I know, like I'll add a little thing in, hey, what's up? Or something. So it will be personalized, and it's always to the person's name. It's never
Yeah.
hello, audiobook producer.
Yeah. Well, it is people business after all.
But I don't go, I'm big about, and part of this is being a parent, and part of this is having other things that I do, that it's not just this. So my time is extremely valuable. And so whatever I can do to minimize the time that I need to do administratively, then I will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Any parent who has any parents just have to get in that mode.
Yeah.
There's no choice.
Yeah.
That's yeah, absolutely on that. And so also I think you do some things like giving back to the community, correct?
Yeah, I do.
And why in the world?
Because because I don't have any time, so why not? But
So here you are,
um,
no time, you're book solid, and you're still doing things for. So what communities do you like? Are you
well, like
currently?
I volunteer my time with APA. I help fellow narrators. Anytime anyone has a question or people will come to ask if I can help them with something, whether they're doing a quick pitch or they're doing a reach out, I always say, hey, if you want me to look over your reach out before you send it, I'd totally be happy to, and I'll give you any ideas that I think or notes or anything like that. So I constantly am helping people, uh, fellow narrators, with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I volunteer for other things that are non-audiobook related. So I'll I just it it's just helping. It's just giving nature. It's something that's always been a part of me.
You know what though? Actors that are successful at any level, over time, always feel grateful because they have work over an extended period of time. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
always, always. I know, like you, being here in LA, we run into a lot of people, but the
Oh, and
people
that's
that,
the other thing too. That's I started doing those narrator get-togethers
yeah,
for various things.
yeah, yeah,
So I'll still do that as well.
yeah, it makes
And
perfect
that
sense
takes
to me.
time. Yeah, you have to organize and you have to do all this stuff, but
But
it's
it's
makes it worthwhile.
it's worth it, and the people that do that regularly, I mean, you just cross paths with somebody, and then you're top of mind when somebody calls and says, "Hey, who do you know that could do this?" Well, because they've crossed paths with you recently, that's also another case where you're gonna get a referral to something that wasn't even on somebody's radar. And Jim asked a good question here.
I just saw that.
So he's so do you go primarily to publishers? Do you sometimes find a book and you think, "Oh, I want to deal with it's in print, nobody has the audio." Do you go direct to authors?
So far, I've only done publisher books.
Okay.
Um, and it's just how it started that way. And it, I've been working, so I haven't really changed anything. John Perhala has been totally on me about getting involved in the indie author world. And so I'm totally open to that. You know, it's just a matter of how and when to start approaching that. But but yeah, but as of right now, I just got my 58th offer, and it's all
Yeah.
publisher book.
I if you're already working to go now, it's going after indie authors is a kind of a path on its own, and there's a learning curve, and every author is different. At least the publisher has a chance to not only have this book, but offer you 3 books over the next year, or where an indie author, unless they have a series, now if they
Yeah,
have a
the
series,
one thing the reason why he wants me to get involved in it, and he explained it to me, is that, and it makes total sense, is that you learn how to master your own stuff, and then you still, when you give your quote, and it's not doing royalty share or anything like that, it's doing PFH, but you do it where you're building in the expected amount to have an editor,
right,
but instead you edit it yourself.
right,
And so then you're, you know,
yeah.
you have a higher PFH.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, Now, do you approach? So you've done both fiction and nonfiction. I know you've done some like biographies. Matter of fact, you won an award. Last
Well, I
time.
didn't win. I didn't win.
Oh, you
I,
were
I was
okay.
nominated. I was a finalist.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, no, that's cool. I mean, hey, I don't track. I knew you were part of. I saw you. Anyway, so he's a almost winner. He's a nominee. Which,
I won in your heart.
yes, you were number 1 in my heart, definitely. Almost. I shouldn't say that out loud. Anyway, um, but but first off, most of us are not even nominated. So it's a cool thing to get in that. And I met the guy who was the subject of, and I actually have your book because of that meeting, and it's spectacular.
He's awesome. Let him, yeah.
Yeah. So one, so that one, I don't know. That's really nonfiction, right? That's his.
Yeah, it was nonfiction, and it was funny because it's I think it's pretty much a memoir, but it's not an Audible. I don't think it was down as memoir, and it wasn't up for memoir. It was nonfiction.
Okay.
But
Now, what I want to ask about that is, do you approach fiction versus nonfiction? I mean, nonfiction is just reading, and fiction is acting. Is that correct?
shut up. Thanks for setting me up for that. Well, no, it's not, Don. It's not
Okay.
the same. It's not phoning it in. No. Well, I mean, the two are different. And I'll be honest, I've changed. I don't. This might be controversial. I don't know if I bring this up like this or not, but because of my time, fiction, I read everything. I go through it beforehand. I read everything. Nonfiction, I've learned that I can scan through it, and I look for all the words that I need to study for pronunciation. And through that scanning, I get a feel for what the book is.
Okay.
But I know it's not going to be, page 276, he said in a gravelly voice or anything like that. There's nothing that's going to surprise me at the end.
Right.
And for nonfiction, it's not nonlinear or anything like that. It's just not. So I can do that, and then I go in and I record the book.
Okay, but
And I would say maybe a third of my books are nonfiction, or 40% maybe. And then for fiction, I know that thing inside and out before I start recording. Oh, I forgot to plug in my my light.
Your what?
My light went out because I didn't have it charged. Like I
Oh, I
didn't have
get
it
it.
plugged in charging.
I didn't even notice.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, I'm doing a quick search here to find the book that you were nominated for, so I can put that into the notes
Oh,
here.
it's yeah,
I already have it in my
refu
I should have just gone
okay.
in my own library on my phone. Oh, there it is, A Refugee's Dream. And
American Dream, yeah.
yeah, and so that's a killer book, and you did a kick butt job on that.
Thanks. But I've learned a lot since that. It's like now if I listen to it, I go, oh yeah, there's that and there's that and there's all of that. How the hell did I get nominated for that? But anyway,
Okay, but I
my
don't know any
secrets.
artists.
It was the family members.
I can't listen to things I played on 10 years ago, or when I was playing for a living. We go back 20, 30 years. I listen to it and it's just like, that's awful. That's just
Yeah.
that's unlistenable.
And for me, I don't like listening to myself,
Correct.
but I have to listen to myself
Correct.
because I have to keep learning. And I hear my stuff. It's not like I listen to myself, go, oh yeah, I love listening to myself.
Well,
No. I listen to myself and I go, really? Why did I do that like that? Or why did I do this like this? Or I didn't catch that noise. You know,
yeah.
yeah.
First off, everybody needs to at some point do some listening. And while it is tough, well, it's tough to listen to yourself. We all have that, and it's like, oh, I do that or approach that differently. I do that differently. I hate the way that sounds. Oh, and we get overly critical. But you also learn things about what you could do better. And oh, I was rushing that.
Yeah.
If you know, and you have the ability to give yourself essentially director's notes
Yeah.
about how to do the next performance.
Yeah.
I,
And I know that there are narrators that I feel like they give themselves much more time. That their pace is much, I don't want to say laconic, but you know, it's
more
just,
relaxed.
yeah, it's much more relaxed than I think my pacing is right now.
Okay, but that changes over time, and it also, I mean, when Heller and I discuss this, you know, he always does say, "Hey, slow the f down." But that's because that's probably the most common directive that he has to give. That's not exclusively the directive that's appropriate, and there are cases where that you do the dialogue. You'll hear him speed something up. He does some things very quickly because that's the right feel for the moment, for the character, for the scene. But he has range where he can just slow it down, leave bigger pauses. And he
Right.
understands that that's part of the emotional content is how he arranges the tempo and contrasting areas in the read. And some people are going to be a little faster, slower, and that's fine too. I
Right.
mean, that's that's an acting decision.
Yeah.
So his directive about always,
And for me, it's the narration. It's like, you know, and I take my pauses and I do all of that and stuff. But I think my general narration is at a little faster clip.
okay. Well, there is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And I do think people misunderstand because Johnny has his little sign about slow down, and somebody gave it to him, so
Yeah.
he proudly
But he's
posted.
like a New Yorker, so
Yeah,
you know his fast compared to a California fast, I'm sure
that's correct.
was much faster.
Yeah, and I do think that if you end up telling as you work with 100
And
or
if he were here to actually be in one of these things when I'm here, then we could find out. But go on.
well, it does work that when you work with 1,000 people plus over time, then you figure out, oh, you know, the tendency is for people to do X or Y. So you're going to make sure you let people know that, hey, generally speaking, you want to do this. And then you find out, okay, but Tim, with his acting background, all right, there he may go totally off script from what I'm saying because that fits the character, and he has the experience to have some discretion about what he's doing and the way he
Yeah, you know,
approaches the work.
I want to touch on this too because you know it's important to get coaching. It's important
Why?
because there are more experienced people who hopefully have insight that is helps you to improve.
Okay, but here's the
But
flip side
here's
of that.
but let
Yeah,
me
but
finish.
go.
Hold
Oh,
on,
sorry.
Don. Let me finish. It's all right.
I'm
But
gonna
anyway,
cry.
so no, so it's important to have coaching and to study and learn, but it's also extremely important to trust yourself and to trust your instincts. And so, you know, when I go to coaching or when I hear stuff, I take in the things that work for me. This was the same thing as an on-camera actor and stage actor when you're learning stuff. You take what works for you, but you also infuse what's unique about yourself.
Right.
You know, and that becomes interesting and compelling. And so I don't, I'll be honest,
Mm-hmm.
I listen to audiobooks here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't listen to a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah,
And
but you're an exceptional because of having 30 years of being in a related field. But go ahead.
yeah, and so what we don't need to listen to copycats.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. So don't feel the need to be a copycat. Don't feel the need to sound like, oh, that's what he sounds like. That's what she sounds like. That's what they sound like. That's what I should be doing. No, if you are getting hired, there's a reason.
Right.
So trust that
Yep.
and explore your narration while you're doing it.
Yeah. And okay, so as a drummer, forever you try to imitate the best drummers in the world, but as a performer, um, one of the things that
And you steal from other people. So as an actor, you steal from other actors.
yes,
You
I was
go, oh,
just gonna
that's
say,
cool. You know,
but
but it
here's the
becomes
thing.
your own thing. You turn it into your own thing.
You start off stealing directly and trying to copy people. That's valid, and it's a great learning thing. If I wanted to do things like you were doing, there would be a short period of time where I would try to do something where I'd stay in character and play Tim. And I would try to get you down, and then as long as I don't stay and you become the only one, there's a singer I know that sounds like Stevie Wonder, but there's already a Stevie Wonder. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't need. I mean, and he can do Stevie Wonder almost as well as Stevie Wonder. It's pretty incredible. But the people that make it take that experience and then they add on another person they'd like, and then over time they become their own. And it's never, no one's going to do Stevie like Stevie, and no one's going to, you pick your artist, whatever,
Yeah.
you pick your actor, but you can steal great things from a bunch of them, and then it becomes how you approach it. So it's just don't get stuck imitating one artist. That's the negative. Short term, mimicking somebody else who's really good. Scott Brick takes a different approach to a lot of things than
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess you might.
Yeah,
It's just a
the
guess.
times I love meeting Scott Brick. Friends with, when I see him, I really like him. I just did a book with his wife that's coming out October 6th, I think it is. Doc Savage, James Patterson book. But but Scott, yeah, I could never do what Scott does.
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to him,
Yeah.
but that's not my narration.
Right. That's a totally different. That's a certain style, and
And
it's not
he's
going.
like God, he's God, but I never thought I need to be like him.
Right. But here's the thing. Let's say you got another book, and in the back of your mind, you go, "Oh, you know what? That person or that section, I could apply some of my Scott feel to that. It's never going to come out really like the way he would do it, but there are times where there's things that he does where you'd go,
Well, one thing I will say is that something that I learned from him, or that I was like wanting to emulate a bit, was I was paying attention to his breathing. That I was like, wow, he's really good at how he handles breathing
Yeah.
when he's narrating,
Yeah. Well,
narration,
that's
whatever.
that's a part of the feel, the way anybody handles breathing, and others don't. First, they're either trying to take them all out. That's always a funny one,
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of the humanity out of it. But you can get used to anything. But
I have a
yeah,
lot of humanity in my books.
there it is. There it is. Sean Pratt does a thing where when he's doing nonfiction, and the way he will define a word, the way he reads the definition, and he slows something down, or an acronym, and he's got a very specific style for doing it. And when I heard it, I thought that is brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's the way he does it, and it's something that I thought I'm stealing that. Now I don't do it the way he does it but point being, you can find cool things among others, and then if you don't have the acting background, then you definitely need to be listening to a lot of people and then stealing from a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's.
And and I didn't realize, 2 years in, I'd still be learning as much as I am with each book that I'm narrating.
I thought you already arrived. Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about acting. When you were 10 years in, did you ever realize that you would still be learning about acting when you were 10 years in? And I'll bet you are not the same actor today than you were after 10 years. Is that close?
That's correct. And I'm sorry for my light going on and off.
Uh,
But
who cares?
but I knew that the thing I knew about acting going in was, I think it was hammered into me that it's a perpetual learning process.
There it is.
And that made
Musicians,
sense to me.
actors, all the artists. My instructor said to me, "Listen, you You may be better than your peers. You may be equal to your peers. You may, in some areas, you'll be better, worse than your peers. But you'll never be as strong as you can be. You'll never be as good as your potential. That's just not going to happen. You need like 6 lifetimes, and you still wouldn't arrive at
Yeah.
that. And I
And
think,
the best training is life.
yeah,
Honestly.
yeah, yep. People learn that. So
And I've
it's
been getting a lot of training.
well, but okay, but I'm gonna guess. In the last year, have you gone to anything where there's a coach there?
Yeah, I went to Audiobooks at Sea,
Hmm.
and I've been doing the Dion Master classes still. I used to do 6 each session. Now I do 3 each session.
Okay. And the thing
Um,
is and I saw it. Did I see you last year at the New England thing?
yeah, I did the New England Narrator Retreat 2 years in a row, and
Which is bizarre because that's not cheap.
no,
It's
it's
a
not.
huge investment of time.
Yeah,
I think, by the
it's
way, I think anybody that's going to that thing and
and just so you know, even though it's not cheap, I feel like it's this is a sensitive thing I think to talk about. Paying for things, but then you also know that you can get the return from it.
correct.
And so far, any event I've gone to, I have gotten the return. I've that has paid for what I've paid for these events and such.
I hope that continues to happen and everything, but I do know from taking lessons from so many people over the years, every once in a while I've taken a lesson where I thought, I don't know if that one was worth it directly, but in
Hmm.
aggregate they are. It's kind of like, hey, I don't get pulled over for speeding all the time either. I'm going to get pulled over once every 50 or 100 times.
Right.
And when you take from different coaches, I've had a couple cases where I've come out of it and thought, you know what? What I learned today was how I'm not going to approach that particular issue.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that sometimes it gave me the flip side of what I wanted, and sometimes it didn't pay off immediately. And then, funny thing, 5 years later, something would come up, and I really think, oh, I remember from that one thing. That actually, okay, that applies in this situation. So maybe my first impression wasn't that it was worth it, but it
Yeah.
always, and you are going to go through a few.
Right.
So that's just kind of part of it. And then the ones that you really like, so pay attention. The takeaway would be pay attention to the people that people go back to. Pay attention to the people that you don't need to go back to the Dion audio. I mean, in one sense, you don't. You've done them enough, and you say you're still doing them, and that means there's some value there that's not obvious to somebody who's just looking at the cost, the direct investment. There's And that's kind of one of my little benchmark. I talk to people and find out what are they going to. Did
Right.
they go back? Not
But
what
at the
they.
same time, you also have to be responsible with your personal finances, and in some cases, it might just not be,
Yeah.
possible at that point.
Yep.
But then you go, okay, what could I do where I could make it possible?
There you go.
Possibly.
It is the same. By the way, so you already know. So my hobby is I'm playing pickleball. If I
Mhm.
really wanted to be a great pickleball player, I would hire a coach. Now, but I'm not that. It's not my profession. It's not something I'm. You know what I mean? I'd like to
Right.
be good, but I'm not willing to hire a coach. If
Right.
I want to improve the fastest, the guys I see, who are around me, some of them have aspirations to do different things. Some of them are going to a coach every week or every whatever. And I'm like, oh, look at that guy. And I kind of sometimes think, boy, maybe I should get a coach. I have taken some coaching, by the way. But
Right.
I mean, it's not one of these things that I'm doing on a regular basis. And I'm watching all sorts of it. Point being, almost anything having that outside perspective, somebody watching who has the experience can give you a leg up over the people who do it all on their own. Can you do it on your own? Absolutely. But if you never had a director, see, the one difference, you've had a director directing you, and over many years, sometimes you
Hmm.
kind of go, oh, I see what you. I always
Well,
wanted to
you
shut up.
directing, you do script analysis, courses and all that stuff. You learn. I have a question, Dave G. I agree with all of his comments. I'm wondering, what does that mean? I don't sweat over the last 1%.
Oh, so first off, Dave, you can answer that, but I'm going to guess that He's trying to get the 99% right and doesn't worry about the last. And there is
Oh,
a
okay.
diminishing return on almost every effort that you put in.
Oh God, yeah.
So you do get to a point that if you get 99% right, then hats off to you. I mean,
Yeah.
matter of fact, it's still the 80-20 rule for a lot of stuff you do with coaching, with working on skills development. And once you get to a certain point, if you've been doing 30 years of acting, for you to
Yeah.
improve your acting skills on camera is gonna take 400 times the effort that it would take someone like me who has no skills in that area, and I'm just starting, so I could double my
Yeah, and I don't know the last time I took an acting class.
right.
Probably in the 90s.
Okay,
But but it was vital for me to take narration classes to understand and to keep learning about POV and pacing and you know even character
right.
uh voices and accents and stuff.
Yeah, that
Things
makes
that I didn't
perfect
have to
sense.
really, an accent I would only approach when I got a role. And now it's like, well, it's kind of worthwhile to expand the toolkit of accents.
Well, just one other thing. Um, Repetition sometimes helps cement technique, and I would say repetition is mandatory. Repetition. So one of the sayings that mine started beating my head. Repetition is the mother of all learning. I don't having it in my head is good, but it's borderline worthless if I cannot execute on it. And to execute on it does require repetition. You have to get the reps in, and that applies across all the arts. And part of the reason that you're successful in this business and becoming more and more and more successful over time is you've had the repetitions for acting, and now you're getting the repetitions in. And yes, you might change something. Yes, you'll modify something in the future, but absolutely that you have to have repetitions. And there are times where it's like, I don't need any more information. And I don't need to go to a pickleball coach in a sense today because I still have 20 things to work on. And then I could go to him 2 weeks from now or her 2 weeks from now because I do have some things I'm working on. And I did work with a coach and there were the 17 things and we filmed it and I can watch it. I have a bunch of things to work on before I can get a huge amount of value out of them. So you have to do both. You cannot just have the head knowledge about acting. You got to do
Right.
it. So
Right.
right on, right on. So anything? We're at the end here, and you're a joy to talk with. And what anything that you have coming up that would be super cool for people to know about?
uh in terms of, I mean, I have two films I'm working on allegedly in Australia, um first half of next year, I think.
Cool.
And one's a comedy, one is thriller suspense film.
Okay.
And I think both will be fun and both will be good for me. I'm really looking forward to that, but that also means that I'm already thinking, okay, I'm into March with my books. And so anytime I have an availability check with me, I turn to my manager and say, am I available? Can I work on this? Because they're still scheduling everything for
Right.
these films. And, so that's a tricky part too, is when you're doing both on camera and narration, it does get tricky.
And when you're
Um,
doing parenting at the same time.
yeah. And then, I'm really looking forward to this book that's being released on the 6th, the James Patterson one. It's wild to me because I'm old enough to know who Doc Savage is. He was like the original superhero almost, and uh, and that I'm the new Doc Savage. So I'm looking forward to listening to that. And I really enjoy working on a podium lit RPG. I'd never worked on lit RPG before, but I have a 3-book series, and they're each like 22 hours long and stuff, which I think is probably average for a lit RPG. It
Yeah.
seems like, and uh, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of different characters and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean, just it just continues on. So,
Yeah.
and then I can't say anything about TV because that I won't know until if I'm working 2 weeks from now, I'll find out next week. So
Right.
yeah, I have nothing on next week
Okay.
for TV.
Well, listen, for most people, if they had a third of what you're doing, they'd just be over the moon. But you've been doing it a long time, paid some dues, and that just pays off in everything, every art.
I do
You,
want to thank Lanisha, if she's still on this.
yeah.
She got me involved in this voiceover artist list, and I'm actually working on a great Netflix series right now that came from that list, and I didn't even audition for it. They just offered it to me. But thank you to Lanisha.
All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But see, people people know you, people know about you, get you on this
Yeah, and that
list.
came from the New England Narrator Retreat.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Connections make a difference. And
yeah.
people recommend you. They knew you. So she knew you from that, get you on this
Hmm.
list, that something else comes out of it. Same story, it repeats. It's really super fantastic. And for those of you that don't know, Johnny Heller and I filmed a webinar a couple weeks ago. It's now available on the vojumpstart.com/Heller Secrets. It's a 3-hour webinar, a bunch of really good audiobook stuff going on there. And so you can watch it 20 times if you want. It's available for replay now. Kind of got the link down the bottom, but that subscribe thing on YouTube is in its way. So maybe you can see it, but it's just vojumpstart.com/Heller Secrets. It's available for replay now. That turned out really, really well to have him for 3 hours working with people, and you get to see him working with 5 people and what they did and what came out of that, and it turned out really, really well. I'm really happy with that, so you guys can
And
check
then
it
the
out.
last thing I want to say that's been really helpful for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially this year, is I have a couple friends that we're texting every day with each other. So I don't have an accountability partner, but I consider them my accountability partners, and I'm not going to call them out here because they
Right.
might not want me to. But I'm so appreciative to those two.
They're nothing like, so when I used to, as a young guy, I had a lesson every week. So I had an accountability partner. I had to go perform something in front of an instructor once a week, and it made me practice a lot more because, oh shoot, I did not want to go in and say, well, I didn't practice. Now as an adult, if I want to work out, if I want to go play pickleball, there's nothing that matches having somebody else that I know. We are meeting at 4 o'clock. We're meeting at 8 o'clock. We have a schedule, and we are going to, and then I don't want to let them down. I didn't feel good Monday morning because, I don't know, I had a little tummy ache, but it's like, I knew this gentleman was going to be there at 7 a.m. because we had agreed on it a couple days earlier. So yes, an accountability partner, if you don't have one, you need to find one, because all by myself, it's easy to go, my tummy hurts,
Mhm.
whine. I'm going to go sleep in or something. I mean, if you have somebody waiting for you at the gym, if you have somebody waiting for you that's got, you said, I'm going to rebuild my website, and then you talk to your accountability person and you didn't do anything on it, you better have a good reason. And sometimes there is a legit reason, but it's a lot better to have that rather than the, oh, I'll do it when I get around to it type stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, I know you got to go. I got to go.
Thank you.
Anyways, thank you all for being here. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to paste this into to different groups. That always helps us. And when the show's over, if you leave a comment in the YouTube beyond the comments that you've had while the show is live, that helps its reach dramatically. So we appreciate you, Tim.
And thank you to
Thank
everyone who is commenting here. I'm seeing them right now. So,
Yeah, it's really, really
thank,
good.
and I
It's
appreciate
so, and somebody just gave you a nice shout out here. He's
Karen.
always a wonderful guest and positive force in the world. I absolutely agree with that. When we had I needed somebody today due to a situation, and Tim's like, yeah, I'll jump in, and last minute, and just a fantastic person. And he knows also he's going to run into me in LA. We're going to be at a gas station together or something.
I
So
seriously have no time to be doing this right now.
yeah, I know. But he
So,
did it anyway because
yeah.
he understands the value of long-term relationships, and so that's appreciated. So you have a
Friends in a
fantastic day.
bind, I'm going to be there
All
when
right,
I
I'll
can.
talk to you
So,
both later.
all right.
Everyone, I'll see you
See
on
you
the
guys.
wires. Bye-bye.
Bye.